It was the headline nobody expected to see. Jackie Christie granted emergency appeal hearing. New evidence points to widespread conspiracy. After months of isolation, anguish, betrayal, and strategic warfare waged from the cold cell blocks of a federal penitentiary, Jackie was no longer just an inmate. She was now a woman on the brink of rewriting her destiny. The internet exploded. News outlets scrambled. Commentators who once mocked her were now asking questions. Influencers posted breakdowns of the voice memo where Doug's voice oozed guilt, calmly stating, "If it blows back, I'll say she did it," while Jackie's face appeared in slow-motion TikToks that trended under hashtags like Justice for Jackie and a Christie conspiracy. But while the world screamed for justice, Jackie stayed quiet, strategically so. She had learned something in that prison. Silence speaks louder when the receipts are nuclear. And now, the arsenal was full. By the time the appeal trial was greenlit, Jackie had already transformed herself from a broken woman into a calculated strategist. The woman who once sobbed for mercy at her sentencing now stood like stone, her prison jumpsuit exchanged for a sharp, all-black designer suit, gifted to her by an anonymous celebrity supporter, rumored to be someone she once mentored, and who now vowed to fund her entire defense. No one knew for sure who it was. Some whispered it was Oprah's team, others swore it was Cardi B. It didn't matter. What mattered was that Jackie was no longer alone, and she was ready to speak. The courtroom was standing room only, rows of journalists, former castmates pretending to show support. Even Keisha, the prison inmate who helped orchestrate the leaks, was granted temporary transfer to testify. Doug Christie was there too, seated across the room in a tailored grey suit, his face unreadable. His eyes, though? They betrayed him. Because for the first time since this began, he wasn't in control, and he knew it. Jackie walked in, head high, unblinking, flanked by her new legal team. No tears, no trembling, only purpose. The appeal began with the introduction of the flash drive, the single piece of evidence that flipped the entire case upside down. The audio of Doug discussing forged signatures wasn't just damning, it was detonating. Prosecutors scrambled to discredit it, arguing context, chain of custody, admissibility. But Jackie's attorneys were relentless. And when forensic analysts confirmed the audio's authenticity and matched it to corresponding transactions that bore Doug's signature but benefited his private LLCs, the tide shifted fast. Jackie wasn't just being exonerated, she was being reborn in real time. Witnesses began coming forward, one by one. Keisha testified that Doug's team had tried to bribe her to plant misinformation inside the prison. A former VH1 producer, who'd been silent for years, finally broke, revealing that Lana Vickers and Doug had been feeding salacious Jackie storylines to the netwoo. It had been 9 months since Jackie Christie walked free. 9 months since she stood at the epicenter of a media resurrection unlike anything seen before. A public exoneration that elevated her from disgraced reality diva to cultural icon, activist, and symbol of unfathomable endurance. The world had watched her fall. It had watched her burn. Now it was watching her reign. But what the world didn't know, what only Jackie had known, and had kept buried beneath every talk show smile and Netflix interview, was that the war wasn't over, not even close. Because the final betrayal hadn't come from Doug, or Rachel, or Tanya, or Lana. It hadn't even come from the justice system. No, this betrayal was closer, deeper, blood-bound. It came from inside her own family, her daughter. Not Chantel, the one who stayed silent during the trial but quietly supported her behind the scenes. No, the betrayal came from Dominique, the niece Jackie had taken in like her own, protected, mentored, and molded. The same Dominique who had stood beside Jackie at press conferences, sobbed during acceptance speeches, and sat on panels preaching family over fame. The same Dominique who had, all along, been recording Jackie's private conversations, feeding them to a secret podcast funded by a rival network in development on an unsanctioned, unauthorized series titled Mother Mayhem, The True Rise and Fall of Jackie Christie. The betrayal came to light not in a headline, but in a DM, an anonymous Instagram message from an intern at the podcast studio. Check this. It included a 30-second clip. Jackie's voice, raw, unfiltered, mid-rant about media leeches, old alliances, and upcoming lawsuits. I gave Dominique everything, and she's out here playing both sides? I'll bury her. I will bury her like the rest. The voice had been edited, distorted, reframed, made to sound unhinged. It was going viral before sunrise. By noon, Dominique had gone live on Instagram, tear-stained, breathless. Hold up, Jackie Christie just got slapped with a life sentence? Wait, what? The queen of drama, the architect of television chaos, the one woman who could turn a side-eye and a wig flip into a cultural moment, now shackled in a jumpsuit and shackled by fate itself, sentenced to rot behind federal bars for the rest of her natural-born life. Oh no, this ain't an episode of Basketball Wives. This is the real thing, the final act in a twisted drama that began not on a soundstage, but deep in the gilded shadows of deception, fraud, betrayal, and heartbreak. And while the world's still catching its breath from the headline, Jackie Christie Life in Prison, the real story is darker, dirtier, and more layered than anyone could have imagined. Because this isn't just about Jackie losing everything. This is about the very empire she built crumbling beneath her stilettos, and at the heart of that collapse. Doug Christie, the man she married, defended, loved, clung to with diamond-clawed devotion, now revealed to be both her greatest heartbreak and the final nail in her designer-crafted coffin. This isn't fiction. This isn't some Mona Scott Young production. This is real life turned nightmare, and it began with whispers. Low, sticky whispers about shady deals, forged signatures, vanishing money, and a woman with too many secrets and too many enemies. For years, Jackie strutted through life untouchable, hosting extravagant parties, painting the illusion of an unshakable marriage, clinking champagne glasses with the very people who would one day line up to bury her. But now, those same hands are holding receipts, and those same smiles are hiding knives, because beneath the glam squads and the Gucci, there was a criminal empire quietly rotting from the inside out. Investigators say Jackie wasn't just playing house and reality star. She was laundering money, strong-arming ex-friends, embezzling funds from shell companies tied to Doug's name, some without his knowledge. Others, well, let's just say if he didn't know, then he was the best actor on any screen. But what detonated the courtroom? What ripped apart whatever veil of illusion remained? It wasn't the documents, the wire transfers, or even the grainy footage of Jackie allegedly coaching a terrified former assistant to lie under oath. It was Doug. Sweet, loyal, no-nonsense Doug, who walked into the courtroom with his head low and his voice steady and said, "I didn't want to believe it, but I couldn't ignore the evidence anymore." And in that single sentence, years of reality TV loyalty, marital vows, and public perception exploded into ash. Jackie froze. Her mouth trembled. "No," she whispered, but Doug didn't look her way. Not once. He had chosen survival over silence, truth over loyalty, and in that choice, he ended Jackie Christie. The jury didn't flinch, the judge didn't blink, and the sentence? Life in federal prison, no parole, no mercy. And as Jackie crumbled into sobs, begging the court for a second chance, the world thought they had seen the last of Jackie Christie the day the judge's gavel dropped like a guillotine, sentencing her to life in federal prison without parole. They thought the tears, the courtroom collapse, and that haunting scream, "I gave my life to that man," was the end. But no, that was just the intermission. Because while the world moved on, while hashtags died out and headlines shifted to fresher scandals, Jackie was just getting started. Beneath the cold cement walls of a prison that felt more like a tomb than a cell, she wasn't decaying, she was transforming, plotting, remembering, every betrayal, every lie, every whispered backroom deal that had cut her down, she held it all in her bones. And now, those bones were rising. By week 4, Jackie had stopped crying. The guards noted it in their reports like it was a sign of progress, but they didn't know her like the world did. Jackie's silence wasn't peace, it was preparation. The sobs had turned inward. The anger had found a focus. And when she looked into the cracked mirror bolted to her cell wall and saw her own eyes staring back, cold, wild, undiluted with illusion, she knew something the rest of the world hadn't realized yet. The queen hadn't been dethroned. She'd been sent to the underworld to learn the art of war. The first thing she did was make a list. Not of names, but of truths. She wrote it on the backs of napkins, ripped pages from old library books, any scrap she could find. Every person who lied to her, used her, profited off her downfall. She recorded them not by their names, but by their sins. The accountant who disappeared after the wire transfers. The friend who suddenly got a TV deal right after I was indicted. The lawyer who said she'd fight for me but leaked my mental eval to TMZ. She wrote in riddles and code a map of betrayal that only she could decode. It was dangerous, obsessive. It was also the only thing keeping her sane. But Jackie knew something the feds hadn't.